Jason Gilbo here at jgilbo11, talking pitching options on tonight's slate. Do I want to? No. It's Clayton Kershaw. There's not a lot of options outside of that I'm thrilled with. I don't know what's up. Since the All-Star break, it's been really mediocre to below average to awful pitching slates. So we have Kershaw. He's a ridiculous price tag of $14K on DraftKings. FanDuel, he's 12-7. After that, trying to pair an SP2 with him, it gets a little bit rocky. Looking at some of these guys, I believe outside of Kershaw, there's about two teams that are under a 4.5 total. There's only one team that's under 4, and that's the White Sox. Outside of that, there's no team under a 4 total. Sorry, actually, there's 2. You get the Giants who are under 4. So we'll look here. We'll start with Clayton Kershaw. Obviously, he's the number 1 option on the board tonight. He's your safest option. He's your cash game guy that you find and you pay up for. You look at Kershaw this year, 31% strikeout rate, 13.7% swinging strike rate. This guy doesn't walk anyone, 45% ground ball rate. His numbers have been extremely strong over his last few starts after kind of a somewhat inconsistent start to the season, just given the fact that his price tag. But 4 double-digit strikeout games over his last 5. He's hit 40 DK points in nearly 3 of his last 5. He hit 39 in a game against Arizona. Been really strong. I know the White Sox are obviously a team that's not bad against lefties. They're 5th in WOBA, 20.9% strikeout rate. But this is Clayton Kershaw. This is the elite of the elite. So definitely going to be looking at them there. The first pivot you can make in terms of a high upside play, but there is some risk, is Robbie Ray. Still, once again, giving up a ton of hard contact, but he's missing a lot of bats. I mean, 13.5%. That rivals almost everyone on the slate for swinging strike rate. He's tied with actually Brad Peacock on the slate for strikeout rate with 32.1%. 3.72 Sierra is a fly ball pitcher. Obviously this Reds team is not bad against lefties. They're 14th in WOBA, 184 ISO. They do have a 21.1% strikeout rate, which is starting to rise a little bit here. I don't mind him. He's a big, minus 144 favorite. He is cheaper than Kershaw. Reds right around a 4.5 run total, which is actually kind of what you're going to be targeting tonight anyway. So it's still on the lower end, but Robbie Ray, an intriguing GPP pivot away from Kershaw tonight if you want to save some cash and kind of go a different route. So I don't mind going there. As far as Brad Peacock goes, I just don't like the price tag on him going up against a Mariners team that is just probably going to chip away at you. I don't see a ton of strikeouts here either. Against righties this year, the Mariners are obviously pretty solid. Top half, 327 WOBA. 20% strikeout rate. So, it's certainly been good. Peacock this year, I think if the price was a little bit lower, I'd be more thrilled with it. But he's pitching a little bit deeper into games, which is nice to see. He's been 6 innings in each of his last 2 starts. Strikeout rate's been pretty solid this year, obviously, as well, as I mentioned earlier. Is he a GPP play? Sure, you can make the case for him. I just won't be going down that road. I think he's a bit too expensive for my taste. I prefer Ray for, a little bit more. I prefer, obviously, going up to Kershaw and just kind of getting that higher floor, higher strikeout upside. So starting to make the move down. It's getting a little bit iffy. I mean, we got Michael Wacha on the road against Rafael Montero. I think, Cardinals will get some upside here in terms of some run support for Wacha. They're right around a 5 run total, but the Mets are right around 5-2. Michael Wacha has actually been really good over his last few starts. Has actually shown some great strikeout upside. 9.95 over his last 3 against Miami, Washington, and the Reds. But before that, he was absolutely awful. I never think of Wacha as a huge strikeout guy. And the Mets aren't actually a big strikeout team anyway. 18.8% strikeout rate against righties. Wacha's a guy, I feel like he's a little bit expensive, but I can see why he's priced this way. Is he in play for me? Sure. It's just because of the lack of better options. You look at Wacha this year, hasn't been bad. He's kind of gone through a couple of different stretches, but 23.5% strikeout rate. He's not allowing a ton of hard contact, decent ground ball rates. he's kind of in line with just about what he's going to be doing. Though the BABIP's a little bit higher, 347. I think the ERA could drop a little bit and kind of to the high threes. So I think Walker might be able to get the job done here. Once again, I do feel like he's a little bit expensive, but because of the lack of better options, he's in play. Once again, it's just kind of tough to pay up for, a Walker with the Kershaw and DraftKings. I think Walker's an intriguing GPP move on FanDuel. If you want to play some bats, I'm okay with it. He's a little bit cheaper there. So I don't mind Walker. Moving on elsewhere here, look at this Red Sox game. Happ is somewhat a guy I can kind of look at here. 7,800, doesn't have a ton of strikeout upside, but he also doesn't really blow up all that much. Red Sox team is just this against lefties. I don't have a ton of confidence in them. He did go into the seventh against them earlier this year. He just didn't have the strikeouts to back it up. He only had one. But you look earlier, I don't mind Happ. He's gone into the sixth inning and see 5 of his last 6 starts. Home runs were a little bit of an issue last time out against Houston, obviously. It was a little bit unlucky there. Against the Yankees, he thrived. Against Royals, he was fine. Against White Sox, Mariners, he's kind of gotten the job done against teams that are similar to the Red Sox. So, they get on base. They don't have a ton of power against lefties. They're also not striking out a ton. You just kind of go out Happ. He gets his 6 innings, keeps guys off base. For 7,800 as an SP2, that's the only place that I'd be looking at him. Do I love it? No. But you know what? I think in terms of safety to get about a 15-point DK outing, I think Happ stands a reasonable chance to do that. It's also a pick 'em as well. I could see Happ coming away with the win because I do have more faith in Happ than I do Brian Johnson. So I don't mind him in that aspect. Outside of that, we'll go to Mike Clevenger. This is probably the best spot outside of Kershaw tonight is Clevenger. The one thing that comes with it is a higher price tag. Clevenger's been pitching really well. He's been missing a ton of bats. He pitches in a friendly environment here. He's been over 20 points in each of the last 2 games. He's an intriguing FanDuel option because Kershaw just stands alone as the #1 cash. But you look here, Clevenger's been really solid this year. I like what I see from him. 27.5% strikeout rate, 13.4% swinging strike rate. Walk rate's the only issue for me here, and it's 13% walk rate. But just because the ERA, there is some regression coming at some point. I don't think that's going to happen tonight against a Giants team that's just awful against righties. 290 ISO, 20% strikeout rate. They have 0 power. You can argue that the Giants still don't strike out a ton and Clevenger doesn't have crazy upside, but anyone that stands a chance of getting 20-plus DK points for me tonight, 45-plus FanDuel points is big enough for me to use. So in play, love Clevenger. I think he's playable in all formats. It's just a matter about fitting him in and what you're comfortable with building a lineup because you can take some shots on these cheap guys. I talked about Happ. He's a cheap option. You look at some of these other lower totals. Oakland Athletics, you got Tampa Bay Rays, who are somewhat of a lower total, right around 4.5 runs apiece. Blake Snell, he's a name. It's an Oakland team that does strike out a ton against, lefties. They're also been pretty poor against them as well, 28th in WOBA, 26% strikeout rate. Blake Snell's a guy, I'm intrigued with at 6,600. I think there is some strikeout upside. He's not going to go deep into games. He just walked way too many hitters. You look at his last few starts, 4 walks, 5 walks, 3 walks. You just got to hope that he can match, with the strikeouts and kind of keep guys off base as well in terms of the hits because this is a team that can, hit for power at times too. So, Blake Snell's a small favorite. It's close to a pick 'em. In terms of Vegas, I don't mind him. Snell also does a decent job at missing some bats, is allowing a decent amount of hard contact though. So high risk, high reward play. I think that's what you're going to get with a lot of these guys. Outside of that though, not much that I'm looking at. Louisesse, 5K against the Twins. He's a bullpen guy. He's only going to go about 5 innings at the most. You got to hope that he picks up the win and gets the strikeouts. I don't think he's a bad option here. We've actually seen him throw some starts and get into that 15 DK point range, which is the only place I'd look to use him. Twins lineup has kind of fallen off a little bit. against righties. They're in 14th in WOBA, near 23% strikeout rate. So Sessa, road favorite. I know there's some rain in the area, wind blowing across. It's not dramatically affecting it. Sessa's somewhat intriguing the more I kind of look into him at a 5K. So it's like if you want to play Kershaw on a pitcher, Sessa might not be a bad option here, and just kind of hope that he goes and picks up the win, gets 5 innings. It's a stretch to say he would go into the 6th. So not a bad option. I like him here. Some other names that I'm probably going to be staying away from. Adam Conley. I know it's a good matchup. Vegas likes him at home, -135 favorite. Phillies right around a 4-run total. Conley went down to the minors this year, through 62 innings. I don't like what I saw in terms of strikeout rate. He had a 5.92 K per 9, 37% ground ball rate. He's never been a big ground ball guy, but FIP and xFIP over 5. So I don't think he's figured things out. I'm staying away from Conley, even with Vegas kind of leaning towards the Marlins and leaning towards the Phillies not having a great offense. If you want to take the matchup and run away with it, that's fine, but I won't be going that route. So outside of that, it's a tricky one to kind of recap here. Kershaw, Clevenger are kind of the standout 2 options. I like Robbie Ray. The ballpark's the only downgrade. The matchup's not the best, but I can see him doing well here. If you want to roll the dice on guys like Blake Snell, Louisesse, as far as cheap SP2s, I'm okay with doing that. But outside, for the most part, you're kind of staying away. Michael Wacha stands alone. Jay Happ, I think at 7,800 is a reasonable play as well. One guy I'm not looking to use, and I'll kind of give a dire warning, that's Ivan Nova. This guy's just giving up a lot of base runners. He pitched well against the Cubs, but before that, it went through a stretch there where he's just allowing a lot of base runners. He doesn't walk guys. That's the good thing. Milwaukee does strike out a ton. Maybe Nova can find it here. 7,600 on DK. If you like him, I don't hate it, but I think there's better options on tonight's slate. So it's a tricky one. Hopefully it gets better over the next few days. I haven't taken a look, but I'm praying for the sake of these pods. But that's going to wrap things up. You can head over to DailyFantasyCafe.com, check out our great tools and content.